It is unreasonably late. Too late to do a video. People are already in bed. It's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the East Coast. I should be retiring myself. It is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Hebrew New Year. We are surrounded by people with their 5, 7, 8, 3 insights, of which I'm going to give you none. Because, you see, I think the news, a lot of people miss, including, dare I say, prophets, is happening right now. The movement is a political movement. Remember this. Remember I told you this. All of you wonderful people, 170 of you, who are listening to me at this late hour, or perhaps tomorrow morning when you wake up. Remember this, Europe is always about a year ahead of the United States. Brexit, remember, happened, and the shift to conservatism happened with Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, like a year before Trump emerged, and the surge and surprise happened with the conservative movement here. Now, there's a division in the states of Europe, as there's a division in the United States. Sheep nations and goat nations. The LGBTQ support the war against Russia, crazy cult of environmentalism. Brussels' central power is bankrupting Europe and is causing states that are watching the immigration surge in, crime rising, the economy falling, energy prices soaring, environmental policy destroying them. From the Netherlands to Italy to Sweden, there's a revolt. Hungary and Poland are saying, we don't want to have to transgenderize our education system. No, thank you very much. We want God. We want our families, and we want our flippin' borders and culture protected from your invasion. And for that, right now, momentous prophetic events are happening that are not being addressed by the 5, 7, 8, 3 crowd. Although there's no doubt a lot of good in the 5, 7, 8, 3s. Catch what's happening, because Europe is right ahead of the United States, and it's going to end up being, they're already vilifying the woman that won the election there in Italy, the latest nail in the coffin of Lucifer in the European Union, the Davos crowd, the one world government orgy of LGBT, environmental, transgender transformation of U.S., Canada, and Europe. That devil is coming down. Now, the head of the European Union just threatened Viktor Orban and Poland, basically saying, we've got $43 billion you need. We're all in a common kitty here. You put money in, like you pay your taxes. Well, we've got your money, and we have tools to get you to comply with what we want you to do. You will not resist our new religion. We have a new religion. I want you to understand something. Woke is a religion. Transgenderism, race theory, has been elevated and exalted to the status of a religious creed that is morally, that is being shrouded in a moral argument that you must submit to and your children must be taught. We got in this midterms one shot at breaking up that thing, or it looks like America's going down. I know you're going to all tell me, no, Lance got the prophecies. Listen, I'm tired of happy talk. Unless you're going to have corresponding action, if you don't describe the devil clearly, if you don't describe the disease accurately, if you don't describe the threat of death profoundly enough, you're not going to pray the prayers that are going to produce a resurrection. My wife has an employee who was dying a week ago, and she just came to me and she said, you know, he was drinking so bad before he got saved, his liver doesn't work. She said, he's saved, he's filled with the Spirit, he loves the Lord, but he's He's in a bad way with double pneumonia. He's on his face. They're putting him into hospice, and his liver's failed. They're saying he's going to die. But I'm talking to his mother, and my intercessors are on this thing, and we're not going to let him die. He's not going to die. And then she was trying to get a hold of Mahesh Chavda and everyone that I know that has a healing ministry. And she's calling him up and saying, we got to pray. A couple of other people she got a hold of. And I'll tell you what, next thing I know, I see the hospice is shocked because the guy comes out of hospice. They said there's the only person they ever saw that went into hospice that got up and walked out. My wife wouldn't let him die. She just, I could see it. She was being unreasonable. But let me tell you something. She only fought for his resurrection life because she stared death in the face. And if you don't see what's happening in America as death in the face, if you're glibly, happily twiddling away and dancing away and prophesying away and thinking it's all going to be wrapped up, you don't have a clue what's really going on. We are in a death struggle. Mastriano needs your support in Pennsylvania. Every Christian in Pennsylvania needs to be on their knees and need to be out there working to get that guy in. Kerry Lake out, the same thing in Arizona. Doug Masters. You know what I'm talking about. You've got Ron out there in Wisconsin right now. These men are in the battle of their lives, these men and women, and they're Christians. Many of them are Christians. While we sit down and we don't want to get political. I'm tired of preachers that keep saying, well, it isn't about politics. It is about politics. Nut. When you're dealing with the Nazi Party, or you're dealing with the KKK, or you're dealing with organized Antifa, you're dealing with something you can't afford to go too neutral. You've got to say, we're dealing with a governmental crisis. Now, they're going to come at us, and they're going to come at these leaders in Europe. They're going to cut off their money. They're going to threaten to cut off their money if they don't go with the woke new religion. Viktor Orban, they don't have the significance of Italy. Italy, there's a lady right now that just won the election in Italy, and she is being completely vilified as if she is Hitler, Mussolini. And all she's doing is standing for God, for family, and for the country. For God, family, and country. And all the left-wing buzzards are out. That's why I'm half worked up right now. Because I don't think that we know who our friends are. Steve Bannon said it yesterday, talking to one of the War Room guys. He said within a year, they're going to start making this an attack against Christian nationalism. Because any political leader that's talking about God and family, they're going to flip it and make them sound like they're Christian nationalist fascists. When in fact, the fascists are the ones on the left that in control of the news media and the political parties that are trying to label God's people as fascists when we simply are trying to stand for our families, try to preserve our economy from depression, Great Depression destruction, and preserve the freedoms for our children. Well, I got all excited tonight when I'm thinking that, and then Tucker pops in.
All over American television, including on channels that should know better, as quote, far right. That's far right, really? Because she acknowledges that American families are under attack? Of course they are. You think it's accidental? No. And she explains why. And it's simple. If you want to establish totalitarian control over a country, of course you have to destroy the family first. Because nobody with deep family loyalty, the one thing every person should have, no one who has that will ever pledge absolute obedience to a politician. Why would you? So if you want absolute obedience, you have to sever family ties. And that's why state schools brainwash your children with values that you despise and then instruct your children to turn you in as a thought criminal if you object. That's happening. It's not your imagination, and it's happening for a reason. Wokeness is not just a political ideology. It's not just something annoying that emerged on college campuses that we can ignore. It's a state religion that supplants actual religion, which is also being destroyed. There's a reason the strip bars and the liquor stores and the weed dispensaries stayed open under COVID, but the churches didn't. If you can't draw the connection between those dots, you're missing it. But Bologna didn't miss it. She understands it perfectly. Watch.
All right, hold on a second. I'm going to put on this lady who is now the elected prime minister in Italy, which is funny because Italy is a Catholic nation, but I don't think that they're dancing with the Pope right now because the Pope is just too Marxist. He's the environmental guru. But what I'm saying is, if I sound a little intense, I am. I am because I don't think the church has turned the corner on the fact that you better recognize your elected officials are overusing their power to destroy your children, your economy, your country, your borders, and that you don't have a whole lot of opportunity to fix this. Because the propaganda machine, the IRS and the FBI, are all clearly already weaponized to come after the movement that's in their way. This woman here, they're attacking a woman for her faith in God who just got elected, and they're slandering her as a right-wing fascist. I want you to listen to her and listen to if she sounds like a right-wing fascist to you.
Only a few months ago, European Union bureaucrats wrote a document hundreds of pages long telling us that in order to be inclusive, we have to exclude all references to Christmas. Jesus. Mary. And all Christian names were to be removed from all official communication. Will we surrender in front of this? No, we will not. We will fight it. We will fight it standing tall.
So they hate your family, they hate your religion, and you don't actually have to put up with it because it's a democracy and you're supposed to be in charge, you being the population. That's a radical message. God, family, country. That's not radical. It's hard to imagine a more wholesome message, a more pro-human platform. Fascists don't believe in God because God is a rival to their power, of course. This is a person publicly professing faith in God. That's so scary, but it is so scary. It's so scary to the people running and benefiting from our current system. And why is that? She's not the first person to say this. People have said it before, but she's just been rewarded for saying it. That's the point. The population likes it. This is what they actually want. They're not that worried about global warming. They don't want open borders. They think the woke stuff is absurd. They want to say what they think. And now it's obvious because she just won. And so even in this country, the people running and benefiting from a deeply corrupt and doomed system are hysterical. Watch the reaction to that.
All right, watch the reaction.
I want to start today by talking about a politician on the right who we should all be worried about, who's on the rise today. A politician who has brushed off accusations of fascism.
What separates us from, let's say,
that's a total nut job.
Elected a fascist.
She is from fascist roots. A far-right political party whose roots go back to post-World War II neo-fascist.
A party that has its roots in Italian fascism.
Its roots in Italian fascism. Define that for us, if you would, Joe Scarborough.
Oh, sorry. You're an idiot. You can't. But the point is, fascist means unacceptable. Whatever this chick is saying, you're not allowed to agree with. They're very worried that many Italians do agree with it. So she has to be completely unacceptable. Don't read further. She's a fascist. And in case you missed the theme, a recent New York Times piece on Loney mentioned fascism or fascist 29 times. Not a subtle newspaper. Apparently she's on the verge of invading Poland. We should be worried. Watch this.
They said it could never happen again. 100 years ago, Mussolini marching on Rome, plunging the country into 2 decades of dictatorship, an alliance with Hitler, and a Second World War. Today, the fascist party is gone, but many say these are their political heirs.
Yeah, it looks like MAGA.
Of Italy. Once on the fringes, they ballooned into the biggest party in the country. Now their leader, Giorgia Meloni, is poised to head the most hard-right government since
Ooh.
35-year-old firebrand insists she's no fascist, just a proud conservative and nationalist. Comfortable, nevertheless, with some of the hallmarks of Italian fascism, like this motto: God, fatherland, and family.
God, family, country. Well, that's pretty scary.
Not a word about climate or equity. But again, it's their hysteria and their total unwillingness to ask obvious questions that lets you in on the secret, which is they're panicked because they know the current system is doomed. And in fact, what happened last night in Italy is the best case scenario for them because it was a peaceful transfer of power. That's a good thing. That's what you want. In a democracy, people should be allowed to have some influence on the priorities of the government that claims to represent them.
Oh, yes, Tucker.
And when they speak in an election, the people who've been repudiated have a moral obligation to pause just for 1 second and ask, why didn't they like what I was offering them? They have a right to an opinion. In fact, their opinion is at the center of our system, this democracy. But they never ask themselves that. They never take any blame whatsoever. They didn't in 2016 when Trump got elected. They immediately blamed Putin or Macedonian bot farms.
All right, so I wanted you to see this because this is Rosh Hashanah. Welcome to Prophetic News. Sweden had an election also. They shifted over to a center right. They're going to be moving more to the right. You saw the Dutch farmers coming against the government because of their environmental policies, trying to shut down farming with the third largest source of food when you're going to have famine possibly coming out of the war with Ukraine. Brilliant, stupid tactical maneuver by educated bureaucrats. You have in France, probably because of the Ukraine conflict, Macron was put back in rather than Le Pen. Le Pen was defeated. But once the dust settled with Ukraine and Russia for a little bit, an overwhelming veto came through their Congress, the equivalent of their parliament, as it gutted Macron's party and threw everything to the right. I believe what you're seeing is the beginning of a backlash, a conservative backlash, a people's backlash against the COVID era, the lockdowns, the economic irresponsibility of spending, the bleeding and emaciating of borders, the rising of crime, the attack on the family, number one thing, children being forced to be subjected to a new ideology, which is a new religion, which is at war with traditional faith and values. And I believe the backlash is necessary for the global revival. For those that are looking for the billion-soul harvest, for those that are looking for this map up here, we have to see Europe is now wavering. And I believe it's because it's gone woke, it's going broke, and it's breaking up. Individual countries are breaking. The United States needs to have that breakup also in terms of its break with Washington, federal power. During the Civil War, it was the North on the good side fighting the rebels in the country that were states. Now you've got the states being the good guys fighting the evil union of the beast system coming out of Washington that is insisting that you submit to their tyranny or you're branded as an extremist and somebody who is to be marked. It's like a reversal of the Civil War, where the central government is the rebel against Americans, and the states are fighting to preserve democracy. That's why Florida is so interesting. So on October 24th and 25th, write this down. Mario Morello and me are going to be following this conversation. We're going to be looking at God and family and country. We're going to talk about the Great Reformation, the issues of Christian nationalism, and what's coming in Europe, because this great global harvest is happening. Brazil is going to determine whether it goes communist south with the rest of South America, with the exception of Peru. The countries are all going under the grip of China and of Marxism, socialism. I think that there is a repudiation that is going to happen to the devil's agenda. I think there's going to be a setback, like with Davos. I feel prophetically, just like with the European Union, there's a setback to Satan's agenda. I think China is continuing to rise in its power, but that God is giving it a setback economically, knocking it back. That Australia is going to have a last call. Indonesia, Singapore, certain parts of Africa and South America. If they don't do it, Islam and tyranny is going to start to eat up Africa. Communist Marxism is going to eat up South America. That woke weirdness of Trudeau is going to start to take over and drip down into the United States. But I believe God's setting back Europe with their woke agenda. He's breaking down Davos. He's going to open up the countries for Sheep Nation revival here. I believe God wants to hold on to Brazil and not let it flip out of Bolsonaro's hand into the fake election software problems they've got like we've had. I believe God wants to reset, a glorious reset in the United States, in the Senate and in the House, to draw a firewall against hell. And I think Biden's going to be flipping out of office, and I think Harris is going to step into the White House before Trump declares his reelection, which might be coming sooner than you think in terms of his declaration. And I believe that God is giving a setback to the devil's agenda for a global harvest, an outpouring, and a sweeping through, and they will be yelling Christian nationalism as a way of attacking the innocent. And I have not yet come to a conclusion as to how I feel that Christian nationalism should be dealt with, because typical of Christians, everybody wants to run away from language that gets slandered by the left. They run away from Trump because they're afraid of getting slandered with being a racist. Well, everybody that knows Trump and knows Republicans and knows MAGA, they stop calling us racist. You know why? When half of the Hispanic vote is leaving Democrats, they got a problem with that racist thing, and African-American males continue to surge towards the Republican platform. So what's happening is they can't go there and say you're racist because it's obvious that too many minorities are interested in the MAGA movement. So they had to make it Christian nationalism. They're coming after Christ. They're coming after religion. They're coming after faith. And we've got to start making the argument that their faith is a woke faith. It's a destructive and perverse ideology. And here's the secret. Here's the secret. You don't have to even attack them. Stop attacking my family. You don't have authority over my children. I'm the one who has authority over my children, not the government. There's your magic pill. We've field tested it. We've studied it. It's that line that gets Democrats and independents to vote Republican. A little secret sauce there. That's the line that scares the most. That's the garlic to the vampire. Stop trying to take my children from me. You don't have authority to come between me and my children. I'm the authority with my children, not you. Not the teachers union, not the governor, not the government. The parents are the ones that have authority in the family. Democrats are in trouble. Meanwhile, they're going to try to make the extremists the issue. But they're having a problem with the extremists, because how extreme is God, family, and country? If you really double down on it, it's not extreme at all. I commend you all, because it's 779 of you watching this at near 1 o'clock in the morning. But I'm telling you, this is the word for Rosh Hashanah, the new year. God is moving in governments to push back on Satan's takeover of governments. And the lawless are having a frustration, because God's plan is an outpouring of his spirit, a last call, if you will, before the thing goes down. And it's going to be a last call, and the reset is happening right now. So wake up, intercessors. Share this. If you have the courage, share it. Share it. Because I can promise you, this one isn't going to get a whole lot of juice on social media unless the courageous MAGA crowd shares it with their friends. But I wanted to give you that update on what happened in Italy, what's happening in Congress in France, what happened in Sweden, what's happening with the Dutch, with the farmers, and I believe what's going to be coming. They even ditched and flipped over their prime minister there in England. We'll see if this lady is from Waffle House or if she's got a Margaret Thatcher bone in her body. And Americans are just desperate. We're desperate to have leadership in the Republican Party. McCarthy, he talks a good talk, but he doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have the anointing for this. I mean, he's the leader. He is going to want the gavel in Congress. Like McConnell, you're stuck with him in the Senate, but not for long. I don't believe we have to accept anything in prayer. I think we can start to say, now the shift happens. Now the reversal happens. May God anoint us with arguments from heaven and marshal our words like the artillery of the spirit realm to bring a bombardment upon the lies that have been brought upon the American people. Thank you, Lord, for your grace and your strength. I love you all. Well, that's my late night update. But we had a birthday party for a family member, and that was the priority earlier. So I'll see you guys later. Share this. I'll read your comments. If you have any questions, go to AskDrWallnau.com. Ask Dr. Wallnau, Wallnau. Remember, October 24th, 25th, go to fireandglorytour.com. Fireandglorytour.com. Get your seat, get your free ticket for the Hertz Arena in Florida. We're going to be right there in the Gulf area of Florida near Fort Myers. And how come I can't remember what it is? Well, anyway, it's going to be in the southern coast there, panhandle of Fort Myers, near in that area right there, Colliers County, Florida. Catch you later. Go to fireandglorytour.com, and you'll join Mario Murillo and me. Powerful, October 24th and 25th, Reformation Revival Tour.